Good morning, folks. Thank you all for showing up on a Sunday morning. I appreciate it. My name is Tony Klausing, and I'm here to present today about my project called Stable Channels. And it's a way to do stable US dollar representations on the Lightning Network. And I've been working on this since last fall, so excited to present it to you today. The idea is basically to represent dollars on the Bitcoin Lightning Network, and the idea is to have Bitcoin swallow up fiat currency as it should. And so first I wanted to start with the story. I was in Argentina with a friend, and I was onboarding her to a Bitcoin wallet, and everything went really smoothly. And we used Lightning, and I sent her some sats, and then she sent me some sats, and then I said, "Isn't this great? You have money for the internet. Now you have Bitcoin." And she said something to me that I'm not going to forget. She said, "Well, this is all great, but what can I do with this, and how can I get dollars?" And you might have a common experience with a number of people around the world. The fact of the matter is that dollar's the bigger brand. Dollar's got more liquidity. For most people, they can't tolerate Bitcoin's volatility. And so there's a lot of benefits to dollars over Bitcoin, right? Dollars have better short-term stability. They're a more popular unit of account for goods, services, obviously debt, and for U.S. citizens, taxes as well. They're definitely a more popular medium of exchange, and they're a bigger brand than Bitcoin. These are just plain facts that we don't need to avoid, and we can embrace those. And so as Bitcoin developers today, you might be thinking, well, so what? Those are dollars. That's a shit coin. We talk about Bitcoin here. Who cares? My premise that I will put to you today is that this can be related to Bitcoin. I think we can do dollars better on Bitcoin. We can absorb dollars into Bitcoin, and we can do it better. And so I want to warn the Bitcoin folks in the crowd that this next slide, I want to give you a trigger warning, because you're not going to be happy with what you see here, I don't think. But it's a plain fact, and so I want you to look at it, okay? There's huge demand for stablecoins. They've grown over 100-fold over the past several years. These stablecoins, the biggest one is Tether, obviously. They're centralized, they're custodial, they use dollars, they use US Treasury bonds, and people love them. People want to use them. And they're built mostly on Ethereum and Ethereum-based technology. So again, so what? These are shit coins. We don't want anything to do with the dollar. We need to onboard people to the next monetary system, right? Well, before I get to the stable channels approach, I want to talk about a couple of different approaches for stable coins and stable balances. There's fiat-backed versus crypto-backed stable coins, and fiat-backed stable coins are like Tether, USDC, and there's about $140 billion of them. These combine old-school tech, like banking, Tether has a bank, and US Treasury bonds, plus new school tokens, and they're mostly ERC20 tokens on Ethereum. How this old school tech and this new school tokens are going to play together from a regulatory standpoint is undetermined at the moment. But there's a lot of pros to these tokens, and the market has obviously proven this out. They're proven, they've got great market share, they've got good brand recognition, but the cons are obvious. These are centralized. There's a bank account where these banks and bonds are held. At Tether, it's Cantor Fitzgerald in New York. And all of these fiat-backed stablecoin tokens have what I call one phone call risk. That means one phone call from the U.S. government and these things are done. Your money's gone. Your money's frozen. These types of tokens are, their usefulness is neutered by worse technology. This worse technology is banking, is bonds, and also, Ethereum, basically. They're doing everything on-chain, and they're not going to be able to scale for tremendous volume, tremendously tiny transactional fees like we can do on Lightning. So there's also cryptocurrency-backed stablecoins, and these are less than a tenth of the size. You may have heard of DAI on Ethereum. You may have heard of a new one called Athena, which is basically a tokenized hedge fund, also centralized. There's stable sats by Galoy. A lot of folks, when I mention this idea, talk about stable sats. I'm a fan. But stable sats is also custodial. Galoy takes custody of your Bitcoin, and they take a short position on an exchange to protect users against a decrease in the price of Bitcoin. There's also a number of solutions using discrete log contracts. It's a whole nother ball of wax. Effectively, with a discrete log contract, you include a price oracle to do a digital signature to settle a bet one way or the other. And so there's a lot of pros and cons of these. I have asterisks behind all of the pros because each of these cryptocurrency-backed stable coins or stable balances are different. Some of them, for example, don't have tokens. A lot of them are crypto native, so you can do crypto native stuff with them, like faster transactions and no KYC transactions, for example. Some of them don't have banks. Some of them are self-custodial, and some of them support Bitcoin. But these types of solutions are less mature. They have technology risk, and they have a really poor track record. I'll point to Luna. So again, open source developers in the stage, I think we can do dollars better on Bitcoin, and we don't need banks. We don't need tokens. We don't need bonds. We can remain self-custodial. How are we going to do this? I'm going to present to you my concept called stable channels. The basic idea is to match up longs and shorts to create a synthetic dollar on Lightning. How's that work? Well, we have two types of Bitcoin users in a stable channel. On the one side is stable receivers, and on the other side is stable providers. On the one side, on the one side is stable receivers, on the other side it's stable providers. Stable receivers want to put in Bitcoin to a Lightning channel and stay stable in dollar terms. And stable providers are willing to provide that stability to the stable receiver. So let's think about it. Let's say a stable receiver puts in 1 Bitcoin and the stable provider puts in 1 Bitcoin into a dual funded channel. Well, right now the price is about $60,000. The stable receiver wants to stay stable at $60,000. And what we do is we connect these users on a Lightning channel, and we settle very, very frequently. Think every 1 minute, every 30 seconds, every 5 minutes, so that each side gets what they want, and we minimize the counterparty risk at any given time. This is the magic of Lightning. I'll get into mechanics a little bit more on the next slide. This solution is peer-to-peer. It's 100% Bitcoin. There's no tokens, there's no banks, there's no one phone call risk. So diving into it a little bit deeper, how's this work? What are the mechanics? Again, we do frequent settlement to reduce our counterparty risk at any given time. So 2 users put 1 Bitcoin into a dual funded channel. It's $60,000 per Bitcoin. That means the channel has 2 Bitcoin capacity, $120,000 capacity to start with. All right. Every 5 minutes, each node gets the US dollar price feed. Right now, I use 5 different price feeds, and I take the median to protect against any one price feed being down or giving the wrong price. So a couple things can happen after we get the price. All right, let's say the price went down. All right, the Bitcoin price went down, and we wanted to keep a user stable at $60,000. If the price goes down, then that means it takes more Bitcoin to keep that user stable at $60,000. So that means that the stable provider will send a payment over to the stable receiver, right? Okay, now what happens if the price goes up? Then that means it takes less Bitcoin for that $60,000, right? So that's going to mean that the stable receiver is going to pay the stable provider, right? It takes less Bitcoin to keep him stable at $60,000, so he pays the stable provider. So effectively, the stable provider has a leverage long Bitcoin play, right? Because when the price of Bitcoin goes up, the stable provider not only benefits from the Bitcoin that he already has on his side of the channel, but he's getting more Bitcoin from the stable receiver. So we're matching up longs and shorts, and we're selling very frequently. It's not a super complicated solution. Operationally, it's a little complex, but I hope you understand the basics. So this is a view of, the stable provider dashboard. And so on the left side, we have the stable channel terms, and you can see like US dollar, stable amount $100, which side you're taking, which price fees you're using. And on the other side, this is more of a trader view where you see, the performance of the stable channel. And so you can see the Bitcoin denominated performance, the US dollar denominated performance, and so forth. And you can see, for example, when I took this screenshot, it was 39 days and we had already completed around 9,100 payments back and forth. No problem. This is Lightning. So I see this as the orange future of finance, and there's a number of benefits and challenges to this approach. Some of the benefits to explore is this is effectively self-custodial, Bitcoin settled derivatives. These are derivatives settled at the speed of light. There's no fiat, there's no banks, there's no bonds, there's no tokens, and there's less Oracle risk than some of the other self-custodial solutions out there. Lightning fast settlement, it's only Bitcoin and Bitcoin infrastructure. I want this to be decentralized and robust, better for financial privacy and with tax advantages. There's a number of challenges with this solution, as you can imagine. A lot of these are similar UX challenges as Bitcoin and Lightning already. Key management is difficult. You need to run a node. It's complex software. Your keys are online with Lightning. You got to do a lot of signatures. With Lightning, you may face challenges in a high on-chain fees environment if you need to close the channel and you need to be always online to settle. There's no guarantee of future performance with this model. However, I think we can mitigate this risk with really great software and divvying up your exposure to different counterparties, for example. Your counterparty can leave at any time, but worst case scenario, you're left with your Bitcoin, which is what we want. Stable channels is streaming finance. It's on demand, 24/7, 365 Bitcoin settled derivatives. What can you do with stable channels? You can do stable USD, stable Euros, stable other assets against long Bitcoin. You can choose your volatility preference. Some users may want to take a little bit of the Bitcoin upside, but not all of it, for example. We can have different types of structured products using Lightning. I think that this can bring in a lot more liquidity and revenue for Lightning so that we can use Lightning as collateral for derivatives and not just as liquidity for routing. We can plug in payments, of course, and I think we can also plug in funding rates and yield. Normally, if you want to go leverage long with Bitcoin, you have to deposit your Bitcoin to an exchange, and then that exchange gives you an exchange rate, a funding rate, and margin trading rate that you have to pay. I think we can bring that to stable channels, and it's a way to give US dollar-denominated yield to node runners. So the current status, this is open source code. It's a Core Lightning plugin. It's been operational since November. It's on GitHub. And I've been really impressed with the Core Lightning performance and the performance of the code so far. I've got an offer out there for anybody, 8% interest to stable receivers. It's a good idea always to ask, where's the yield come from, right? And the yield comes from longs paying shorts. These are bilateral agreements. Longs pay shorts, 8% annualized. That's a little bit every 5 minutes. This is streaming finance. So I wanted to sum up for you guys today. The fact of the matter is that people want the money that they recognize that preserves their short-term purchasing power. The crypto options like stablecoins, they all have one phone call risk. Do I think these stablecoins are going to be around in their current form in the next 5 years? I think there's a double-digit chance they're not. They're definitely not Bitcoin native. We can do better. This is a huge opportunity to build better dollars on Bitcoin, to be one phone call resistant, to build something censorship resistant and decentralized, where Bitcoin eats fiat as is its destiny. So folks, I presented today about stable channels. You can find me, Tony, here. I'll be happy to chat afterwards. You can find me on Twitter, and I invite you to join the Stable Channels Telegram group. I say safe travels, everybody, and thank you so much for your time.